People love him. Okay, the beta's going to make them so much cash.
Do you think that's good though? Do you think what they do actually retains new players? Do you think new players get into the game and understand how it works?
I mean, they've got no sub fee. They don't particularly care about that to a certain extent.
But they still have to buy the game.
Yeah, they do buy the game. Yeah, but they buy the game and they play it on and off. The whole point of Guild Wars 2 is almost run like a TV show, in my opinion. The living story, the way it's designed is that they want you to come and play. Maybe you see a cute mount skin, you buy a mount skin, and then you play through the living story. Maybe you do a few events, you do map a few times. Because Virtual Yeti said a while ago that everything is repeatable in the game. He's actually right. Everything is repeatable in the game. It just
do you want to repeat it?
It doesn't appeal to us, but some people do. Yeah, a lot of people do repeat this stuff. Lagoan, I mean, I used to do the Octovine, right? Like all the HOT meta events a lot. I don't anymore because I'm a little stale. But go there, seriously. Even go there late, and you will see 4 full maps every single time.
That is. It's good that you mentioned that because I think that's the kind of content that Guilds 2 should have.
I agree. Yeah.
It's
open world events
content.
like that. Yeah.
It's fun content. Like, you know, I can go and have fun doing Tangle Depths meta. Okay.
Yeah.
Like,
It's very quick though, isn't it?
I might. What, Tangle Depths?
Yeah, I mean, like it.
No, it's
are you talking about the pre-event, or are you literally talking about the final event of Tangled
The
Depths?
final event's like what, 20 minutes?
Yeah, it's like a 20-minute downtime. If you did the whole thing though, you're looking at like an hour and a half of like continued content, which it's great.
Chill. It's chill. It's fun. You know, I can sit there, I can do that, and that's the content that we should be adding to the game with these living story releases. But they're not. I mean, imagine how many more players would be in game. You know, having more exposure to their gem store releases, all of this stuff. If they spent a bit more time working on these meta events and making, you know, keeping people in the game as opposed to making these great massive maps with lots of detail and lots of like little hidden lore bits. Now I don't know about you, but exploration can be nice, but it's a one-time thing.
But that's a very specific audience as well. The type of person that's going to sit there and walk around looking for those miniature
I'd say
things,
that the majority of the Guild Wars 2 player base enjoys the exploration aspect. Okay, and it is that's their focus. Okay, but at the same time, they can keep all those people in game and still having fun if they make a good, rewarding meta like they did with the Heart of Thorns, perhaps.
But that's why people don't go in the Living World episodes, for example. I mean, if every single Living World, I mean, well, to be honest, this could be just as bad as it is good. Like, if you look at, look at Istan, for example. Istan is probably one of the most successful Living World releases.
But it's utter trash.
It's a complete shit. It's complete shit.
All it is running around and opening chests.
Exactly. It's Palawadan and the Great Hall, both of which are extreme moneymakers. The Living World episode itself was really lackluster. It was not impressive. The map is garbage, in my opinion. It's open space, but it doesn't provide you with anything new. You don't take in anything and go, wow, that's really cool. You just fucking walk in there, you take the loot, and you get out again. That seems to be what is the determination of a successful zone at the moment. If you look at the new Living World releases, they live and they die within, what, 2 or 3 weeks, right? And that's because they determine whether or not the meta event is actually beneficial or profitable to them as a player. If it's not, they leave. And if the meta event is temporarily profitable, like, for example, you can do it, collect items, buy a skin, for example, and then, you know, fuck it afterwards. Once you bought the skin, whatever it is that you get at the end of it, you get the fuck out, you don't come back. That is pretty much what is the essence of Living World. People do it, they get the achievements they need, and then they never go back. And if you want an incentive for people to return to a Living World map, you need to have like some monetary gain. There needs to be some, again, it comes back to the reward system. That if you're going to consistently release all these maps, to be honest, they could do it, like, instead of doing it every 3 months, they could do it every 6 months, and then at least we transition from one Living World map to another Living World map, and each time it progressively becomes more worth it. Or they nerf the meta event in the previous map, and they make it so that the new one is the most profitable. At least then their new work gets most, played, or, gets the most coverage.
Or they just create fun events that are rewarding no matter what you do.
Exactly,
and
but then
you can do them.
They're always going to be gauged on their profitability. Like people do Chak because of the Chak egg. People do the Heart of Thorn. What's the one in? Fuck, I can't remember what it's called. They get the lump of Aurelia.
People still do Auric Basin.
We just need a new meta that gives a purple infusion because purple.
Yeah, but people still.
Yeah,
I love purple.
Dude, they do a really good job on that in the game, but seriously, that.
So again, do you think that like what do you think of Guild Wars 2 strategy? Do you think that the game itself will? Well, I mean, obviously the game is going to eventually dissipate, but you know, do you think that, you know, given the fact they're not really holding on to new players, or maybe not because the combat system is complex, that you know, it requires a bit of an understanding, and that understanding doesn't really exist, and then the veterans are not really being pleased either. They have like this middle ground that's the people that decide they want to invest the time to learn about it, but they're not necessarily walked through it. So like, if you know, if they helped, considering they are focusing on new players so much, if they focus more on, you know, educating those new players and just saying, this is how the combat system works, this is what condition damage is, this is what power damage is, this is how the combo system works, this is what your character means, this is what you should expect to do. If they made that kind of introduction to the game, I think that their introduction focus of new players would be so much more impactful than what they're currently doing, right?
I think there is definitely a lot of work to be done on introducing players to the combat system, but I don't think that's the route they should even take, really. If they wanted to retain players and the kind of players that they're marketing to as a very casual audience, they shouldn't be too worried about the combat system, because that's almost like fluff for a casual player. Just the fact that it feels good will be enough. What they need to be doing is actually give some direction. A lot of people will come into Guild Wars 2, and if they level naturally, they'll feel a bit lost between story episodes, because the rework of the story, in my opinion, is pretty bad, pretty rubbish, really.
I think you're
because
right.
They separate it into chapters, but what they needed to do is to make sure that it keeps linked. So ideally, the player would have a smooth journey through the story. Maybe increase leveling speed even, actually, right? Something like that. Make it so that you could, if you wanted to, you could just do the story and you'll be level 80 by the end of it. Something like that. But the combat system in general it's really good, right? But you don't need to actually understand its intricacies to appreciate it, really. I mean, you'll already realize how smooth the game feels, how the combat is, how you can dodge and stuff like that. It's already there, and realistically, the casual players don't really care too much about the really intense stuff with it. In any of the game modes, really. It's more about the actual experience combined with the storytelling. And that's the episodic nature of Guild Wars 2. When we talk about player retention, they probably do retain players, but they just don't play a lot.
Yeah.
Right? When you have living story come about, damn, they better prepare those servers because everyone's logging back on, right?
Right.
People say, you know what? So your casual player might log on. Maybe they log on every day. Maybe they log on 2 days a week, right? But at some point they'll go, oh, there's some new story. Let me go check that out. And that's when they'll play a little bit more intensely. So they'll play maybe every day, and they'll get that beacon, right? And maybe they'll buy a mount skip. Maybe they'll, I don't know, buy some Black Lion keys because that's on sale. They'll buy a character slot. Maybe they'll level another class, or maybe they'll start working towards that.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's so hard to actually determine what that. It's so volatile. Like, they may or may not, right? They're not a consistent source. Like, I mean, you're assuming that they might because they're a casual player, but it's like maybe what they're actually focusing on is that type of player that's invested heavily in the lore. Maybe not so much the casual.
I think the numbers don't lie. Look at the sales reports. Some of the recent months for Guild Wars 2, when they had mount skins, some of the best they've ever had, let alone...
Well, their quarterly earning was like 19 million for Guild Wars 2. That was I think that actually is not even their profit margin. That is their entire earning, I think. That was the amount of money that was earned via just game sales. So that's Gem Store, that's the actual expansion itself. And you can't really tell how good that is as a number until you know how many the statistics of people playing the game currently, active or inactive. 19 million, as Wizard says, 19 million is not really a lot. If you estimate, like I said before, if you estimate 900,000 people are playing the game actively, that implies that even without game sales, even without expansion sales, brand new players buying the game, which would be a $40 investment, it's an example of $5 a month per person, which it means that you spend $20 a quarter, which means your investment is $20 towards that 19 million game. If you like I said, triple it, and you assume there's 3 million people playing, it's $2. It's the equivalent of people spending $2 per month or something, to a total of like almost like $12 across the entirety of the quarter. So it's like, what are we actually getting at here? Like, are we as a collective community spending money, or is it like a few whales, you know, which is the terminology of somebody who spends a hell of a lot of money on the game, funding it for everybody else that is keeping the game going? So actually what they're doing is not appealing to an entire market, right? It's appealing to a very finite percentage of the player base who are funding the entire game for everybody else. And like I said, that is the